Today I'll be talking about using debuginfod with the Yocto Project, and my name is Dorinda Bassey. So let's just get into it. A little about me. I'm a past outreach intern at the Yocto Project. I contributed to adding debuginfod from elfutils to the Yocto Project with a lot of help from my mentor Rose Burton and the Yocto Project community. Also, I'm a recent graduate from the University of EU, Nigeria. I studied electrical electronics engineering, and a couple of my interests, I'm interested in embedded Linux systems and the workflow around building and packaging operating system images. I'm also very much interested in free and open source contribution. So if you want to reach out to me, you can contact me at my email, which is here, dorinbassey@gmail.com. Or if you want to know more about like my outreach experience during my internship at the Yocto Project, you can check me out on you can check out my blog, which is dorinbassey.github.io, and then you can also connect with me on Twitter. So enough about me, and let's dig in. So, like I said, we're talking about using debuginfod on the Yocto Project. So, some introduction. Yeah, bugs are inevitable, and they usually happen. So identifying and fixing these bugs is part of the development processes for a developer, and hence there is need for flexible tools to improve program performance. So there are a lot of tools that exist like tracers, profilers, and interactive debugging like the PEF2, GDB, but all these tools depend on debugging information. But I'm not going to talk about these tools today, except for assessing debug info using GDB tool. So, like, I'll just talk about assessing debug info, and that will be using debuginfod. So, why debuginfod? So, debug info usually contains debug files and source files, and they are usually not packaged with its distro or deployed binaries. This is usually like due to maybe the size of the debug packages, which is about like 5 to 15 plus times the size of the stripped binaries. And most times as a developer, if you're putting into consideration the memory or disk space constraints of the target device, you wouldn't want to add debug info to your image. And although these debug and source packages can be installed by adding the extra image features to your local config file. So you can add it by using like the debug packages or source packages. Like you can enable this in your local config file. But there's one thing you should note. If you're using this, that's if you're using these debug packages and source packages, there will be like a dramatic increase in the size of your image. You can see here that I attached a screenshot of when I enabled my build history. You can this was when I added debug packages, just debug packages. You can see that the image size had increased drastically with about 626%. So like that's how much the image size had increased. And that was just me enabling my debug packages. And now that's why we have debuginfod. So what is debuginfod? Debuginfod from elfutils is like a web file server for debugging artifacts. So debuginfod makes debugging information available on the server for easy debug and distribution of debug info files. So usually what debuginfod does is that it serves the debug info itself over HTTP to debuggers and similar tools. And currently in the Yocto project, it's in GDB, elfutils, and bin utils. And with the help of debuginfod, debugging becomes easier. You as a developer is able to conserve disk space of your target device. So that's debuginfod, and I will show you how to like set up your debuginfod server. So here is me setting up my debuginfod server. What you just have to do first before you run the server is that you have to enable package config for That's the package config options for elfutils native in your local config file of your image. So you would have like enable debuginfod and library debuginfod, and then you will have to also append debuginfod to your distro. That's to enable it in your distro feature. And then another thing you can do, like after, like once you set that up, you build your image and you can now run the script to that's run the script OE debuginfod. So now what this script does is that it scans it sets up the server and scans all the packages in your deploy directory. So maybe if you have your IPK packages there or your like RPMs, it just scans all the packages in your deploy directory. Or an alternative to like running OE debuginfod is that you can directly aim it at build directory. That you can just run OE run native elfutils native debuginfod dash u. So you can like aim it specifically at your build directories, RPMs, your dep files, and maybe your IPK. So this is here is a sample of when I just ran the 7 for this directory, this path in this IPK packages. So you would want to use the U option. That's for if you're scanning IPK files and deb files. And then if you're scanning RPM files, you would want to use the R option. So this would also set up your server. But like you can see here that I passed in like the directories that I wanted to scan, like that I wanted the server to be set up for. So that's it for setting up your server. And next thing you want to do is enable the client support. That's to be able to fetch debugging information from your server. So first thing you should like just cross check is the port that the debuginfod is listening on. The default port is 8002, but you would want to like make sure that that's what your debuginfod is running on. So you can like just use the netstart command to like check what port your debuginfod is running on. And then after you're sure that yeah the server is set up, before you use before you access the server from the client perspective, you would want to export debuginfod URLs. So that's exporting into the environment. So if you're debugging on the target image, that's if you're debugging on the target device. Here I'll be using Quemu as like an example, like as my target image, sorry, target device. So you would want to export debuginfod URLs to my okay, I went back a little bit. Sorry. You would want to export debuginfod URLs to the environment. So what you would be passing is like the address the address of your target device, which is for my Quemu 192.168.7.1, and like the port debuginfod is listening on. And if you're debugging on the host, that's you're not debugging in your target on your build host, you can like in your build environment, you first have to export your debuginfod URLs to the environment. So this is like me exporting the debuginfod URLs to the environment using like localhost as your address and 8002 as the port for debuginfod. So there you have it. You can now just easily like fetch debug symbols or load debugging symbols of like your binaries. So maybe we are debugging for maybe the bash binary or well sorry the bash binary or the grep program. You can just simply run gdb bin bash and you get the debugging symbols for that particular program. And where it's getting the symbols from is from the server, which is much more easier. You don't need to like fetch the symbols from the debug packages because like it's not included in the image. And then part of the client support is that you can also use debuginfod find command to query the server. So if you want to use the debuginfod find command, you should always remember to add elfutils to your image. So take for example, yeah, I want to use the debuginfo define command to maybe find the debug info of a particular program, maybe the BC calculator. I would have to like first add elfutils to the image. So in your local config, this is what you just do. You run like image install append, and then you like append the elfutils recipe. And just by doing that, you build your image, and then on your targets, you want to run debugging for define debug info, and then you pass the path to the executable. So maybe if it's whatever program, like whatever executable in your build directories it is that you want to find, you can just like use this debugging for define debug info and path to the executable. Or you could also use like the build ID of the executable itself. And on your host, if you're running if you're using debug info define command on your host device, what you want to do is you want to run OE run native or elfutils native debug info define debug info, and you can either pass like the build ID or the path to the executable. So that's it for client support. And yeah, maybe what's his build ID? Yes, you can see that in the previous slide, I either passed the path to the executable, or I passed the build ID of the binary. So build ID is actually a unique identification of binaries, and each of these executable or shared libraries that we are debugging is usually assigned a unique identification of about 160-bit shard string, and it's useful in analyzing core files. So take for example, you want to like analyze the core file itself, or the executable binaries which just crashed, or the shared libraries loaded in the binaries when it crashed. You like it's easier to just use the build ID instead of like passing the whole path to the executable, because once you have the build ID, you can use it to fetch whatever debug info it is you want to fetch. So you can actually display the build ID of a binary by using the readelf command. So you can use this like readelf. This is me trying to display the build ID of the ls program. So I'm like using readelf -n and passing the bin ls executable. Or you could actually use file bin ls. So using the file bin, using the file, I prefer to use the file command, because using that I can also see if the program is stripped or unstripped. So yeah, that's it. And yeah, let's move on to demo. I'm just going to like show you how debugging for D runs on the Yocto project, both on the host and the target. So demo. Okay, so sorry. Let me clear this. Okay, and let's get into it. I'm already in my Pocky directory, where like my I will build my image. So the first thing I want to do is like source my environment script. Build environment. And there you have it. So the next thing you want to do is build back your image. But like I said, to be able to use debuginfo on your server, you would want to edit your local configuration. So this is me editing my local config file. So I would have to first add package config options here for debuginfo and elfutils native. Okay, and there you have it. And I would be like enabling my debuginfo and library debuginfo. So once you have your package config enabled, you want to like append debuginfo to your distro. So this is me appending debug info to my distro. And so I don't want us to like go over this again. So let's just go ahead and because we'll be using debugging for define command. So let's just go ahead and uh, add elfutils to our image. Okay, so here we are adding elfutils to our image. Okay, so let's see if we get all that. And just to be sure or just to be clear, you can see here my extra image features variable that I didn't add the debug packages and like neither did I add the source packages. It's just uh, like the package config options that I enabled. So yeah, that's it. And okay, saving that and let's build the image now. Okay, so we can now break our image. So I'll in this demo, I'm using core image minimal. Yeah, because it's small. Okay, so that's it. And we'll be baking our image. While that is cooking, uh, uh, any questions? Let me check. Okay, oh, that was pretty fast. Yeah, because I already like cached I already cached the data in my like SSD kits. Oh, sorry, let me hide this. Okay, so once you baked your image, the next thing you want to do is run the server. So like I said, you can run OE to set up a server. Just run OE debug info d, and yeah, you can use this, or like I said, if you want to maybe run a server for a particular set of set of binaries like your build directory or maybe your RPMs, you can use the other command that you can actually use OE run native. Sorry, OE run elfutils native. Like you can use the other command which was already in my slide. You can like check the slides, but here I'll be since it's like running the OE debug info d. Since running this just like scans all of everything in my deploy directory. This is it. So I'm running the server. Starting running gig elf it is native. Okay, so the server is up and running. This is it. If you see, you can see that okay because currently I enabled my package classes as I enabled my IPK packages and my RPM packages in my package classes. So you can see here that it's actually scanning archives for all like packages in my deploy directory. So it's scanning for the deb files, scanning for deb files, also scanning for IPK and uh, for RPM files. So okay, now that you have our server up and running, the next thing you want to do is fetch your debugging information for whatever tool you're using. So, like if you're using the GDB tool or the perf tool, you can actually like just fetch debug info from the server. So, like I said here, I'll be using the GDB tool. So, this is me trying to debug on the target. So, I would cd into my Poppy directory, search OE init build environment. Okay, so I would want to run my target image. So run Clemon X 8664, and I'll be using the no graphics. Yeah, I don't want like too much. Anyways, let's just get into it. Okay, so this is me running my image on. Sorry, hold on.
Do you want to use slurp on the command line in
Slurp,
addition to
no,
no graphic?
no. I don't want to use Slurp because if you use that, you won't be able to like fetch from the server. I need to be root to do that. Okay, what am I missing? Ah, sorry, let me big big my image here. Ouch. Okay. Coordinates. Now, okay, and let's. And sorry, no available tab devices. Okay, I think I was running a tab device earlier today. Uh, good. Okay, this was when I ran the tab device. What was I doing? Sorry, let me shut down. Let me shut it down. Uh, I created tab device. Okay, and let's see. Okay, did I run 4 tab devices? Okay, I should run just one to make it. Okay, so I think there should be an available tab device now. So let's pick that now. Okay, sorry for that. I'm currently running Chrome. Okay. Uh, okay, so I'm logging in, and once I'm in, like I said, while debugging on the target, you would want to export to your environment. So this is me exporting debugging for the URLs. So this is debugging for the URLs to my environment. So I'm like http slash slash one x02. And okay, so there you go. I've exported to my debugging for the URLs to address that's the port of my debugging for the. So now you can easily just fetch debug symbols for a particular program. So I can load the symbols for, let's say, the grep command. This is me loading symbols for the grep command. That's the grep program. And you can see reading symbols from being grep, and it got the symbols from the server. So you can see let me load the symbols using the info sources. Okay, so there you go. You can see the symbols loaded from the server. So, like I said, we are not talking about using it today. So you can also like load symbols of maybe another binary, like maybe the being ls command, and load new symbols. Yes, and there you go. You can see it's reading symbols from the server that it's like cached. It's in your cached debugging for the client directly. So uh, like I said, since we've already enabled elfutils in our local config file, we can use debuginfo find command. So this is me using debuginfo define command, debuginfo define debuginfo, and you want to like pass the binary or the build ID, that's the part of the executable or your build ID. So would be, let me open another terminal. So our server is still running. So cd okay. Oh, I think um I should be considering the time here. But then you can like just pass in the part to here. You can pass in the part to your executable. So let's say in my Pocky directory, let's say my tmp deploy directory, and okay, so take for example, I want to use the bc command. You can see that the packages are all here. So I can go to the bc command. Where is it? There you are. This is nice. So I can just like go to this bc command, unpack it using like the dbkg -deb -xv tool, like unpack your bc program, and you can like fetch the build ID of this program or fetch the path to where you unpack the bc program, and you can just pass it here. So you can pass in your like build ID um, or your path to executable. So that's it. Let's shut down the target device and sorry, did I say power off? Okay, and back to our host. So now we're on the host. Now we're on the host. You can fetch debug info of your program, like using the OE running elfutils native and passing debug info find command debug info. So you can actually, I like to use the verbose option so that I can see everything clearly. So I already have a path to the PC. So let's export that. I don't know, do we still have a little bit of time? The terminal. Okay, so cd into this. I want to cd into this directory. So like properties. Okay, let's see. A bit fast about that. So I'm entering into the directory. Oh, I didn't copy that. Oh, okay, copy it now. Okay, so once I'm in, I want to like unpack the file. So the dbkg the since it's like an IPK file, I'm unpacking it using the IPK command. So this is the file. This is the PC file. This is what I want to debug. So Control C, copy, and Control C, and let's unpack it to this place, BC. So okay, now it's there. You want to use the file command to fetch the binary. So this is me fetching the binary of the okay. So it's in the PC command slash user being the PC. Okay, so you can see the build ID. Okay, I will be copying that build ID, and right here I'll pass it to the debuginfo command. So you can see it running big elfutils native, and yeah, sorry. Oh, I said elfutil, nothing to write. Elfutils native. That should have been an S in there. Yes. So okay, and there you go. You can see using the V option as the verbose option, it checks the build ID. It's like telling you what it's doing. So it's checking the build ID, checks the cache directory, and it found the debug info for that binary. So that's it. That's it for debugging on the host, and uh, like I already showed you, debugging on the target. So back to our slide. And actually, okay, current slide said, so back to our like previous slides. So that's it for the demo. And if you want to know more about using debuginfo for maybe your operating system like your Fedora or Ubuntu, like for Ubuntu users, you can like go and look at the elfutils community, and you can also chat with them on patched elfutils on ircfreelink.net. And that's it. Thank you for listening to my presentation.